Is corporate media about to bend the knee again to Donald Trump? CBS News, owned by Paramount, has announced that it will enter into mediated talks with Donald Trump to try to settle his $20 billion defamation and consumer fraud case that doesn't have a leg to stand on and he would never prevail on in the courts. But they're willing to get in the room, Paramount in particular, to try to settle the case about whether 60 Minutes in its clip that it ran of Kamala Harris's interview with Bill Whitaker, whether they edited it properly. You gotta be kidding me. But ABC News settled the George Stephanopoulos BS defamation case for $15 million. Facebook stroked a check for $1 million to Donald Trump and his library trust. X, now owned by Elon Musk, paid Donald Trump $10 million. We've never seen this before. A president of the United States using his power, his office, his bully pulpit to extract private settlements about bullshit lawsuits. That's what we're watching. Now, look, I had hoped that CBS, which is owned by Paramount, which is owned ultimately by the Sumner Redstone family, would not cave in. They're litigating in Texas because that's where Donald Trump brought this particular lawsuit. And in Texas, they filed it in federal court in order to get one judge, which they did in Amarillo, Texas, Judge Kaczmarek. So everything lined up for Donald Trump, but that lawsuit has no merit. It's completely antithetical to the First Amendment rights and freedom of the press of CBS. But I left out something. Paramount is trying to work a merger with a company called Skydance. Guess who's in charge of approving mergers? That would be the Federal Communications Commission, headed by Brendan Carr, who is a toady and sycophant and bootlicker of the First Order for Donald Trump. Came right out of the Heritage Foundation, actually wrote the chapter about how the Federal Communications Commission could be used to further MAGA goals. So that Brendan Carr has got to approve the merger or the merger doesn't happen. Ever since Sumner Redstone died, the family has been trying to avoid a real-life succession battle, a la the Murdoch family, and they've been trying to sell it out to Skydance, but they need the federal government to approve. Federal government that's now completely under the thumb and control of one Donald Trump. You see how Donald Trump is using his private lawsuits or is using his public power to help his private lawsuits? Now, I was slightly encouraged, I did a hot take on it last week, when CBS in its filing with the court let the judge know that if discovery, which is the exchange of information during the course of a case, if it continued, they're going to have to get to the bottom of all of Donald Trump's personal finances. They're going to have to ask him about his meme coin, and they're going to have to ask him about his Truth Social and all the money he allegedly lost, which is zero. I thought, well, all right, well, they're being aggressive in litigation. That's probably a good thing. But now with the new reporting about the mediation, which I'm going to describe to you in more detail, I am worried that the next thing I'm going to tell you about the case is that they are going to capitulate, that they are going to cave in and write a check for $5, $10, $15, or $20 million, something that matches what the ABC News did. This is the problem with corporate media. This is the problem with the corporate part of corporate media, is that they're so worried about their bottom line. They're so worried about their licenses that they're willing to bend over and not hold this administration accountable. What's a mediation? Mediation is a consensual alternate dispute resolution mechanism, which is presided over usually by a former judge or a well-considered lawyer. And it's an exercise in shuttle diplomacy. There's no binding resolution. The person at the top of the table, who's the mediator, can't bind the parties. That he can only help facilitate a negotiated settlement. It is a way for the two parties to interact with each other. And since they don't want to literally face each other, they use this diplomat in the middle in a bit of shuttle diplomacy going back and forth between both parties, maybe making some recommendations about how to settle the case, maybe making some recommendations about how a court or a jury would see a case. On the CBS side, I can't imagine any self-respecting former judge, now mediator, telling CBS that you have real exposure to losing this case in Texas. I just don't see it. Kaczmarek may rule against them. But ultimately, they're going to win even at this United States Supreme Court. But they don't want to play that game. I mean, look at the numbers that Donald Trump is throwing around. $20 billion. It's more than the total value of Paramount that owns CBS. For what? Because they ran a clip on Face the Nation of what to promote the 60 Minutes interview in which they played part, but not all of the statement by Kamala Harris about how she would handle the Israeli peace process and Hamas and Gaza. I mean, who hasn't watched CBS and have them say, for more and for a complete interview, go to, and then the website. It's called editorial discretion. Who wants to watch an unedited interview on 60 Minutes? I don't. If you want to watch unedited footage of proceedings, go to C-SPAN. That's not the role. First Amendment, freedom of the press says you can editorialize, you can clip, you can edit in your own discretion. Donald Trump didn't like it because he argued, oh, it made her look good. Made her look good? She lost by a considerable amount, not a landslide, at the time of the election. We're back to sore winner category for Donald Trump. So mediation, look, in federal court, you got to eventually mediate. There's no doubt about it. You don't have to early mediate, but you are required to get into a room with a neutral third party and try to resolve your differences. It's ordered. It's a court-ordered mediation. It's a federally required mediation process. You can ask the judge to be let out from under it, but most of them will say, no, you're going to have to go to mediation. A lot of cases settle. Most cases not involving Donald Trump settle. 95% or more of civil cases and even criminal matters resolve without having to go all the way through trial. Only a very small percentage of cases end up at trial. A smaller percentage go to appeal, and an even smaller, almost infinitesimal percentage end up at the United States Supreme Court. So I'm not shocked by the mediation because it's required. I am sort of disappointed that CBS so early on is agreeing to get in the room. They better bring their checkbook with them because the only way out of the room is to bring your checkbook. You know, and now we're going to find out where CBS lines up. Are they going to be on the side of freedom of the press, defending democracy, or are they going to be on the side of corporate shareholders and just stroke a check to get out of that room? You know, like ABC did, like Facebook did, like, Amazon did in paying off Melania $40 million. What are we watching? I'll tell you what you're not watching. You're never watching Legal AF or Midas Touch paying for an interview or paying somebody off because we're just doing our First Amendment duties. Our freedom of the speech, freedom of the press duties here every day, every hour on Legal AF and on the Midas Touch Network. I'm glad you're here with us. I appreciate you being part of our audience. I'm doing my best to curate the content that you enjoy. And if you could help us out, hit the free subscribe button. I would appreciate it. So until my next reporting at the intersection of law and politics, I'm Michael Popak. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.